Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Ep2 podcast. I promised you a guest in the first episode, so I've looked high and low for someone suitable, and I've found someone that I think you'll like, that I was able to have a fairly interesting, if not slightly hostile conversation with. So I won't spoil who it is yet, even though you can clearly see it in the video title. And I'll let him introduce himself as we get into the interview. Right, okay, so we're here with the first guest of the podcast. If those of you that tuned in for the first episode will remember that I promised you a guest for episode 2, so I've been diligently searching high and low for a guest the past couple of weeks. I went as far as the barren plains of Africa, and there I found a man sat in the middle of nowhere with a laptop, efficiently optimizing websites and getting people consistently first page rankings. So, hello, how's it going?
How's it going, Trev? You alright, mate?
Yes, I'm very well. So, this is Kyle. Kyle is my business partner. We run Guerrilla Marketing together. Kyle actually founded Guerrilla Marketing a couple of years before I came in, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, that was our birthday the other day. We started on the 11th of March 2015.
There you go. So Kyle, so what's that, 6 years?
6 years.
6 years of guerrilla marketing action. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity to speak about ourselves and hope, and hope that people care enough to listen for 45 minutes. But more to the point as well, like, I'm quite conscious of making sure that those of you that are listening are taking some sort of value away. So obviously we're going to treat this as an opportunity to tell our story, talk a little bit about, you know, how we got from starting out, you know, as a small agency together to having 12 staff, and the journey that, you know, what that process was over a 2.5 year period. But also really what I want to share is like the lessons that we've learned along the way, and Kyle's had a lot of input on, you know, the structure of this podcast and sharing some of the lessons and some of the takeaways that other, you know, if you're just a startup agency right now or you're a small agency, 2 or 3 people, then I feel there's probably a lot of lessons and mistakes that we've made over the past 2 years that hopefully we can save you making, and we can share the lessons that we've learned along the way. So first of all, mate, should we talk about when we first met all those years ago?
Well, it was the year 2010, and it was in Ashton-under-Lyne in the Nando's on Ashton Moss. That is where we met.
Yeah, so after college, I got a job working at Nando's chicken restaurant. I was a griller. They wouldn't let me near the customers.
They said, rightly so.
They said I had a temper. I sat about a man with a chicken drumstick, and they never let me near the customers again. But yeah, so I was working at Nando's restaurant just after college, and you were working you were on a gap year or something, weren't you, at uni?
Yeah, I left South Africa, basically, as you said, a gap year, and then was enthralled by the luxuries that Ashton had to offer, so I decided to stick around for a bit longer. And yeah, I think you and me during that time we got quite close in that, and then I was probably worked there. What did I do? About 2 years, just under 2 years.
Yeah, I think both of us worked there for about 2 years. So you mentioned the luxuries that Ashton had to offer. Do you want to just rattle a few of them off for me?
I don't think it's safe for a podcast.
Yeah, I'll save you some time. They had a Betfair and a Greg's.
That's all you need.
And a Nando's, yeah. That's all you need. So we were working there together, obviously, for a couple of years. And then it was purely by chance, I think, that we both left and went off on our own individual directions. And I ended up getting into digital marketing through an apprenticeship. You went back to South Africa to continue studying, right? And then it sort of, by one way or another, you owned a restaurant over there or something, right?
Yeah, so long story. Basically, the first business that I ever started, it was a logistics and freight company. We were transporting things like toilets and ventilation systems and that from Johannesburg to the Congo. And we're doing that probably about 6 or 7 months, and managed to secure a couple of like really decent contracts. And as a result, a guy that we knew through the industry, his name was Kiri. He offered to buy us out basically, just to secure the contracts that he'd failed to secure. Myself and my business partner at the time, we both had a lot of experience in restaurants, or so we thought. Obviously, I worked at Nando's, so I thought, yeah, I can obviously own and manage a restaurant. And about 3 months later, we were absolutely skint. And in the process of all of that, was looking into how to rank on Google. I thought, obviously, that if people are searching restaurants Cape Town or something to that effect, that it would bring more customers through. So obviously always knew the intrinsic value that ranking high on Google had. It was just then a case of actually understanding how the algorithm worked and what is rewarded, and then from there I started this whole journey, and here I am sat with you.
Awesome. Yeah, so like you started getting into SEO when obviously you were still in South Africa, and I think at that point we kind of realised that even though we'd known each other when we was working at the restaurant together, I call it the restaurant, so I don't have to keep saying Nando's. Yeah, I used to work at a restaurant after college. Don't you mean Nando's? Technically it's not a restaurant. It's more of just a building with a microwave in it.
The chicken shack.
Yeah. So we knew each other from there. You moved back to South Africa and ended up getting into SEO. And then we got back in touch, didn't we, and started talking about, like, I was obviously working at an SEO agency at that point. We ended up getting back in touch. We had a little bit of a falling out, didn't we, mate?
Yeah, I'll hold my hands up to that one. I was a bit naive. I wasn't long in it. I think at that time, I thought my ability to sell SEO probably exceeded my ability to do SEO. I think I just overpromised and under-delivered. It was a lesson hard learnt. I mean, after that, I mean, you just started out. You'd taken my word for it and gone to your new boss and basically relayed my promises.
Yeah. My mate's going to sell loads of SEO for us in South Africa, boss. Can we make him a website for free, please? And he went, yeah, okay. He's not going to let you down, is he, Danny? I went, no, I don't think so. Oh, wait, hang on a minute. He's not answering the phone anymore.
Well, that sums it up perfectly, yeah. And then, I went to that little rabbit hole. I think I focused more on the actual discipline of it. I realised that, people are a bit, if you don't know what you're talking about, they if you're trying to sell something and you don't really know what you're talking about, it's easy to pop holes in and you become less credible. Yeah. So I just really focused on learning this stuff, and then inadvertently I just really fell in love with the industry, what you can do. There's loads of people that I follow, and even though I've not met a lot of them, like, weirdly consider them friends because I watch their YouTube and they just give such insightful, test results and just insight into the industry and how to rank websites and how to, benefit the clients at the end of the day too. So, I think we went about 18 months or so before we reconnected. Yeah. And I sent you a couple of emails, obviously, tail between my legs. I'd moved back to Manchester then. And I think we flirted with the idea of meeting up a couple of times, which fell through. And then I told you about guerrilla marketing, and then radio silence for a while until you spotted guerrilla marketing ranking for SEO Manchester.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
Hi, mate. You all right? You haven't got any clients for me, have you? No, it's a good point, but I think, when you see something like that, SEO is very much like one of those things where, unless you're on the inside, if you're someone on the outside of a website, it's like you've got to just say, prove it, haven't you? Yeah. All right, you might be good at SEO, prove it. Let's see something on the front page. Like, plenty of people that we know say that they're good at SEO, but it's like, well, show me something then. Show me something on the front page that's, a high competition keyword. And ranking the website for a keyword like SEO Manchester, even though it's a local keyword, it's incredibly high competition because the density of digital marketing agencies in the city centre is high. Yeah. So, it's no wonder that a lot of potential clients search a keyword like that and then will use that almost as like a proof of concept that you're a decent agency because of the 30, 40 agencies in the city centre, you're one of the select few that's able to maintain a top spot ranking.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of how we ended up coming back together. Is like, obviously you really honed your craft at SEO, and I think, after we got back in touch and we started to, discuss like collaborating on some client projects, even though I was still working full-time at a big brand as the head of SEO there.
Yeah, I think we skipped that a bit there. You were talking about you at that agency. And
yeah, I mean, I worked at that agency, overworked and underpaid for about 6 or 7 years, and then I ended up being the head of SEO at a big, probably a household name automotive brand in the UK. I was the head of SEO there for about 4 years, but towards the end I started to explore the idea of freelancing. I was looking for something more, I was looking at maybe setting up like a lifestyle agency where I was able to just have a few clients on the side, earn what I was earning as a full-time living, but maybe only work a few days. Or I was toying with the idea of working abroad. I think everyone that starts to toy with the idea of freelancing originally has this idea of becoming, I think, what they call a digital nomad, where you've got your Mac in your backpack and you go and, work from cafes and that sort of thing in Thailand, and you work on the beach and all this stuff. I don't think it really ever ends up that way, but I think at that time you were getting a lot of leads in for SEO through your ranking for SEO Manchester. You were getting so many leads in, and I think like the ones that were just basically overspill, you just started to send my way. And I think that's how we ended up kind of getting back in touch. I was like, oh, okay, obviously he's actually doing all right here, and like I know what I'm doing and he knows what he's doing. But I think when I was as a result of that, I was actually able to leave my full-time role for all these leads that he was giving me for freelance work. So when I left my full-time role, or as I was approaching the time where I was about to leave my full-time role, I think we just basically said, well, why don't we just go in together? Because my speciality within SEO is much more the creative side of it and the digital PR side of it. Yeah. And the video optimization and all that side, and your side is very much like the web development technical side of SEO and building out these websites with huge convoluted architecture and stuff like that. So it was very much like complementary, wasn't it? And it kind of seemed silly for me to try and get by as a creative specialist and you to try and get by as a technical. So we just decided to say fuck it and go in together, right?
That's pretty much it. I mean, before we'd even got to that point, you said you were leaving your job. Which was understandable, and then we spent like a week working in the same bloody office together. I was renting a small little office for, I think it was like 250 quid a month, just near Cornbrook, and I mean you just came to work there, and then I think on your first week on the Friday nights, I think we'd went to the Atlas bar. We'd had a few and we were like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, do you know, while our two competitors sat in the same office?
Yeah, two people, exactly. Two SEO agencies sat in the same office, giving each other advice and collaborating on their own clients in their respective sort of blind spots. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened, isn't it? And then I think we better move swiftly into actually giving people some sort of value now before we go into speaking about ourselves with no kind of value for over 13 minutes. So obviously since that point, since we went in together, mate, we've gone from being the two of us to being 12 of us?
Yeah, 12, with a couple of consistent freelancers who are not technically on the books, but they're just on a retainer. Yeah,
because like the kind of workload that we require from people, for example, like additional content writers and that sort of thing, it kind of fluctuates, so it makes sense for us in that respect. But the journey that we've gone on from being 2 people to 12 people, I mean, there are agencies out there, particularly like people that have come up on the radar recently, like Rise at 7. They've grown phenomenally quickly, and it's no surprise really. Like if you actually look at the way that they've gone about creating hype and getting like PR coverage and going viral on social media by they'll take an image of something that's trending. Like there was a B&Q thing the other day where B&Q went under a bridge that was too small, and then they turned that into a Durex advert where it's like, oh, when you can't fit it, lube it or something like that, which while it is creative and technically it works, it did make me gag in my mouth a little bit. But that said, if they've scaled their agency from, I think it was something like under 10 people to 70 odd staff in the period of 18 months. They're obviously doing something right. So whilst we're not growing at that level, I feel that there was a lot of fundamental lessons and a lot of mistakes that we had to make as a partnership, so that we didn't, if we had have grown from, under 10 people to 70 odd people, we would have made some big fucking mistakes along the way. I think if we'd have had that rate of growth. So I feel that our rate of growth is appropriate for the level of, business savviness that we had at the time. And I feel that, obviously we're taking steps now to kind of fill in those blanks with people like Agency Nomics and Cactus and that sort of thing, and some of the consultants that we're working with there. But, it's just interesting to see that even in a 2.5 year period, going from 2 people to 12 people is very realistic, given like some of the huge mistakes we've made along the way as well. I mean, we've lost a few people that weren't right for us along that journey as well. So we could have just as easily been, 15 staff if that wouldn't have been the case. So why don't we talk a little bit about each of the kind of landmarks or stepping stones that we've done from getting from where we were back then with just 2 of us in a little back bedroom office to where we are now, 12 staff in a nice big spacious office in the Northern Quarter.
So first office, Chester Road, just there by Cornbrook, as you said. Basically, it's a beautiful Victorian terrace that's been converted into offices. I can't fault it at all for what it is. Obviously we went in for it, but I think our first mistake was almost a necessity that we felt because we picked up a few clients and stuff, and just a necessity you and me felt to hire staff. The way that we went about it, we thought the ideal way would be apprenticeships, and we thought that at the time, if we were to bring on 2 or 3 of the right apprentices and train them up to our level, we'd be able to first of all get a good deal as a business owner at the start in regards to wages. They would have a good handshake in the sense of learning from 2 really experienced industry experts. So we thought it was a fair shake, so to speak, in that sense. And that's sort of what I don't want to say pinned our growth strategy on, but it was like how we saw our first employees coming in through the door. And credit to us, like our best content writer is still with us and came in that way. But there were a couple of people who joined us who just weren't a right fit. I think some fault lies with probably me more as an agency owner. I don't think, because I'd been working for 2.5, 3 years just on my lonesome, and I'd had a certain way of working. I don't think I was accustomed to going from a small room just with me to a small room with 4 or 5 people in it. And I think maybe that wasn't right for us. Maybe if we'd moved into a place where we had more space before that growth had happened, perhaps I wouldn't have lost my temper a couple of times at things, always in private, never at the staff. But I think I had a few proper vents about just the headaches and stuff. So I think that would be one thing that I'd look back on with you. I mean, should we have put in, because it was before kids and all of this, should we have put in more hours and sacrificed hiring staff so that we could get a bigger space and then bring the staff in? That's just something that in hindsight we probably would be worth weighing up.
But do you think it was a problem with the size of the space, or do you think it was more that that perhaps I'm not going to use the word mistake, but one of the potential issues was that we decided to hire 2 people with no experience that had the right sort of talent. And because I only knew that model from the agency that I worked at when I first came into it, it was like, well, you can just take apprentices on and train them up and start them as content writers, then teach them basic optimization. And like, if you look at most agencies, even though they act like it's not, most agencies, their business model is put a few people at the top that have got industry experience, someone that's like a sales type guy, someone that is a really well-rounded, experienced SEO, maybe someone that's in PR, and then the business owner, and then the rest are all fucking juniors. Like most of the time, you're like for a lot of the clients that come to us, and like we've been in the industry long enough to know this, and I've got a lot of contacts at different agencies. a lot of agencies are a few experienced people at the top, then loads of fucking juniors just churning all the hours out, and we kind of intentionally avoid that model now. Whereas we don't have as many staff as a lot of agencies, but we tend to aim for more like fewer staff but more experienced people that are able to almost like fully service a client between 2 or 3 people, rather than having 6 juniors and then one person at the top pulling all the strings. So do you think that the actual issue there was the space wasn't big enough and that was stressing you out, or do you think the issue is that we just didn't have the fucking time or patience to train 2 people that didn't have experience? Like, looking back at it, in my opinion is that we really needed, I don't think we realised this until later on, but I think we needed people at that stage that could just come in and be a third one of us, where they're like, you know what, I've been doing SEO 6 years, and if we'd have just saved our money up, got a couple of more clients and go, right, okay, bang, here's a, you know, the salary that you're expecting, that you're after, now there's 3 of us. And I think we eventually did do that. I think
that was the next thing we did after that didn't work out. Our next, sort of when we shrunk back down, our next step forward was Dave. So I think that's a really good perspective on it.
Okay, so let's say that then. So get your notepads out, get your pens, or get your iPads out and open the Notes app. So either the lesson now, and we don't know for sure, but either the lesson is don't pack too many people into a small tiny office, or if you're impatient or you're used to working by yourself, or you haven't got the time or like I say, the patience to actually train someone from scratch, even if they've got the right talent, just don't hire a junior as your first hire. Like, hire someone that can come in and give you full support, because chances are you're probably going to need to start focusing on sales, I would say. Okay, right. That was a seamless edit. Do you reckon they noticed? I don't think they noticed. We were singing Toto Africa in between that edit, weren't we?
Yeah.
Go on, sing it.
The rains come down in Africa.
Right, stop. You don't sing ever again on this podcast. Right, okay, so the next thing that we did is we were getting a little bit busier, and we were making some decent money, so we decided to take a punt on getting a city centre office, because one of the main issues we were having with the office we were in, there wasn't really a dedicated meeting space, and even if it did have a dedicated meeting space, it wasn't really a space that you'd want to be inviting potential customers back to. Like, it was great and the owners were great and everything, we had a real good relationship with them, but you know, once you start to pitch on big brands for their SEO campaign, we had the skill set and the staff to actually deliver on that campaign, but I think people just have certain expectations when they come in and they view the space that you're in. I think it says a lot about where you are as an agency and what you're willing to spend and how you treat your staff. And the building that we were in, you know, it didn't really tick the boxes in terms of like people coming in and having a nice customer journey. So we went and viewed WeWork offices, didn't we, in St. Peter's Square, which is really, really good location. It had a tram stop right outside. It had a view of Manchester Library. It just seemed like a really sort of upmarket bit of real estate, and maybe talk a little bit about the space that we ended up with in there, the 2 separate ones.
Yeah, so I mean, Trev summed it up perfectly, the reasons why we needed to move. To be fair, we'd signed a really big clients just by going to their offices. I think we were very comfortable in the quality of the work that we were doing, and we knew that, that they were secured for a long time because they saw like really improved organic results, and had signed an extension and that, and we just took the plunge really. We viewed the actual building that we're in now, and yeah, why didn't we take this one? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. Oh no, I do remember. It's because we changed the owner. They changed the fucking, what's the name of it? Where they put my name on the thing, so the VAT got.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, it was basically we were waiting for invoices to clear. And
we had to reissue all the invoices with a new VAT number or something, right?
Yeah, we basically just couldn't put the deposit down on the place. So
we had like three months worth of invoices overdue because it fucking took forever for the new VAT number to come in or something.
That's right, yeah. So Yeah. Anyway, we one of my best mates, he had an office in St. Peter's Square, and managed to get Trev. I was very on the pricey side, but managed to get Trev to come and have a look with us. And I think it was, for the time, it was love at first sight, wasn't it? And the main thing for it too was because we had an organic presence, and we were getting contacted by, like some really good small to medium businesses, who had a budget to really push us to the next level, but we were sort of losing them in the right. Okay, we'll come around yours and we'll meet the team, and it was sort of like, we don't really want to do that, do we?
Yeah,
so,
we was having to put people off, like, we're in between moving offices at the minute. Can we come and see you? And I think, like, if there's something to take away from this, I think it is. I'm not sure how this advice is going to go down during COVID. I feel like this was really good advice 12 months ago, but right now I haven't got a fucking clue if this is going to be applicable. Let's just assume that everything's going to go back to normal and the apocalypse is coming to an end, right? But I think the takeaway point here is, like, if you're quoting for a medium to large size brand, they're going to have expectations of you in terms of, like, what your offices look like. What their journey's going to be like when they come to see you. But if they're going to come and visit you in the city centre, can you provide parking in the building that you're in? Like, that's one really good thing about the WeWork we were at, is we had, like, an underground parking as part of our fee. They was like, yeah, drive in, we've got an underground car park, come up, if you come for an afternoon meeting, the beer taps come on at 3, why don't you stay after the meeting and have a couple of pints with us? It's got beer pumps and free coffee, and there's a ping pong table, and whilst all of this stuff is very surface level, and it's a little bit, when you actually work in that space, it'd be good. No one ever uses the fucking ping pong table. No. It's just there. But to someone that's just popping in for the first time, it's like, oh, this is a really young, dynamic digital marketing space. Wow. Like, and they feel like part of it, and it's like, that's nice and everything. And it's part of the sales process, really. It's the reason that I suppose a salesman never turns up in an old banger car. Like, salesmen always turn up to a pitch in a nice car with a nice Range Rover and a nice watch and all this stuff. And whilst that seems quite, we're not that sort, really, are we? It seems quite vapid to me, but a lot of people do buy into that sort of thing, and it's proof of concept. It's a little bit of a flex, isn't it? So I suppose the takeaway point is that if you're able to create a nice customer journey for people that are coming in to visit you and give them a nice treatment, then having a decent space that looks the part is much more beneficial than trying to dart around having a back bedroom office and arranging meetings in coffee shops and stuff. If you've got a dedicated meeting space where you can link your laptop up to the big screen and you can take them for a presentation, get them a coffee or a free beer or something like that, I think that goes a long way.
It does,
even for introverted digital marketing people, like most of the people are in this agency. If you can get your head around that and start to think about the journey that you're taking people on, but through making a commitment really to a marketing campaign with you, then that really does go a long way. So that would be the second point. Nice and concise, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Should we get into the inner workings of mistakes we made in there?
Yeah.
During that time too, I think we probably made the biggest mistake of our business careers, and it was bringing on a third business partner. Lesson number one, and I personally feel this should be the first lesson taken before any other, is your business is not your piggy bank. What your business makes belongs to your business. Your business, if it's in a fortunate enough position, pays you. I mentioned my restaurants before. That was the biggest mistake that I made in that. I saw, we were making good money each day, and I thought I was rich. And then when the suppliers came knocking and were like, okay, well, you haven't paid us for, bloody 50 pounds of fish. You're like, well, I blew it all at the pub, and like, I'm sorry, I can't. Let me go and find
50 pounds of fish.
Or 50 kilograms of fish or something.
Oh, like right, I thought you meant like 50 quid worth of fish. I was going to say, you never heard the £1 fish song, have you? Hello ladies, £1 fish. You never heard that?
Never heard it in my life.
That's for another time, sorry.
Yeah, Trev spends about 20% of his working hours teaching me stuff.
Showing you things that you've,
that I've missed out growing up in Britain.
Yeah, sorry, I've totally derailed you there with my £1 fish story.
No, it's fine. It was worth it.
So you were saying about it's not your piggy bank.
Yeah, your business isn't your piggy bank. It's the money that your business makes does not belong to you. I think that's so important to understand from day one. Your business, and I mean it's even seen in the eyes of the law as that, where your business is your own separate entity, and you are paid by your business. You obviously give direction, focus, blood, sweat and tears to your business, but at the end of the day, your business just pays you, and everything your business makes belongs to the business. So the main problem that I had with our previous business partner was, we'd have a really, really, really good month, and it got seen as, now we can pay ourselves more. And I was appalled by it. And he was probably with us for about 4 months before coronavirus hit, and it was an absolute arm wrestle to get him to take a salary reduction, which we did. I mean, we were living hand to mouth. You got rid of your car, all of that. Not that business had gone bad. It was just
a strategic move to make sure the business didn't go bad. You're right. Like, we didn't want to wait until we had to downsize our lifestyles to actually do that. It's just that we took that as a precautionary measure to make sure that everyone's salary was covered. We were still making a profit, and we were still able to start putting money into our runway, or our actual, if we lost all of our clients today, have we got expenses and wages covered for 6 month fund?
Yeah, that's another lesson that Trav brought on when me and him started. That was his number one goal, which was, we need 6 months saved. If every client told us no, like a Google update came out which was called "We Hate Gorilla," and they de-indexed every single Gorilla client. Like, could we survive for 6 months and pay salaries for 6 months, and make sure everything was alright for 6 months before we had to bring another penny in through the door? And I think that's a very wise lesson that Trev brought on when we started too, which was literally our first milestone when we started, was let's get our 6 month plan out. When we look to hire, we always look back to that model, as in, if the I Hate Gorilla update comes out from Google, do we have 6 months saved so this person is covered by what we have in the bank? So that's if we're getting into like agency finance and stuff like that, or small business finance, I think that's such an important lesson. And I think that lesson is probably why we navigated COVID well. It's very unfortunate that a few businesses didn't quite make it, especially in the event space. We had 2 clients in the event space, and one of them, unfortunately, they've had to close their doors, and the other also just stopped all spending and just buckled down until there's such a time that they're able to actually provide their service and have income coming in before that they're able to potentially rejoin us after all of this. So that's the way. Well, basically, like, to go back to or 2 steps back, should I say, is that was my main grief with that business partner that we had to let go. And it just seemed like we were making as many sacrifices as we possibly could to maintain the integrity of the business. And like you say, it was an arm wrestle to try and argue the case that, like, look, we're all taking cuts here, like, and that person was arguing that they were on the bones of their arse and bought a Range Rover.
And then the second that the second that things started to perk up again, immediately bought a brand new Range Rover. So, like, to me, someone that had been on their arse for the past 4 or 5 months and was living hand to mouth shouldn't have the money in the bank to buy a fucking Range Rover. But look, like, that's, I think we learned a valuable lesson there as well, which you've kind of summarised. So it's a good point. Your business isn't your bank account, and if you just put yourself on a salary and don't treat your business's income as if that's your money, it's really going to leave money left over to build a runway, that I call it, which is like 6 months of expenses, salaries, that sort of thing. All of that is in the bank should the worst happen, you lose all your clients overnight. And And B, it's almost it's going to give you a lot of sort of like financial kind of frugality as well. Like, you know, it's good for you to be taking money out of the business through dividends and that sort of thing. But I think that time should come when you've actually built you've built the engine and it's running itself. Like, the business becomes self-sufficient. You've got the support staff in to deliver the service. You've got someone in to support with sales, which we'll move on to next. I think that's probably a good point to move on to. But you've got someone in to support with sales, and you're able to, like, let's say for example, you just got wiped out in a fucking badminton match or something. You took a shuttlecock to the throat, and you're out of business, son. That's you. Good night, nurse, as my granddad would say. And you know, you're out of the picture for 6 weeks. If that business could run itself, because you're not overspending and you've got the right people in, then that's the time where I think you're able to start taking more money, because it's like, well, what do I need to spend this on now? Like, if you're going to bring, you know, and then you go and get 4 more clients, obviously then you need to hire more staff. But at a basic level, the business runs itself, or is able to operate without you necessarily being in it 24/7, and that is the time where I feel we can. That's when we started to take more money, isn't it? Once we had those right people in. So that was, you know, we've got other mates that have got their own agencies that sell websites and this and that. And it's a small team. They sell loads of websites and they take loads of fucking money, and that's great and everything if that's the size that you want to stay. But if you want to build an agency that's going to sell for millions in 3 to 5 years' time, then I think you have to be willing to make those sacrifices in the early stage and understand that you're essentially building a dynamic,
self-sufficient machine.
Exactly, yeah. All right, next one. Sales time. Sales time. Sales time. So we kind of touched on this earlier, but this is probably one of my favourite things that we've learned, which is sales above all else.
When business is good, sales. When business is bad, sales.
Sales. ABC, always be closing. ABCD, always be closing.
Deals.
Nice. ABCDE, always be closing deals.
Exceptionally. No.
Every day.
Every day. I like it. Always be closing deals every day.
Right, let's not go through the alphabet. So I think this is probably one of the things that's made the biggest impact to our business, which is, obviously we mentioned before, we've always had quite good visibility as an SEO agency. We rank very well for things like, you know, when people search in Google, SEO Manchester, SEO agencies Manchester, digital marketing Manchester, all this sort of stuff. So we got a lot of inbound inquiries through that, and we've got a good visibility on different, you know, sort of entities around the internet where people typically would look for SEO agencies. So we have a good presence that way, and we've always had a good number of inbound opportunities and inquiries. But until we made the leap to basically make my full-time role mostly sales, and also as a result of the sales that brought on, then we brought in a more experienced business development manager. I would say our rate of growth was quite slow, but I'd say since October last year, our rate of growth has increased substantially, and we've been able to put together a very achievable cash flow forecast that tells us what the business is going to be worth in 3 to 5 years' time. Joining the Agencynomics community has been fucking fantastic, because they've been able to, we obviously we had our cash flow. We was like, well, we know we'll consistently be able to close this amount of new business every month, right? But what Agencynomics were able to do with the tools and stuff that they give us access to they were able to say, well, you know, if you're growing at this rate, then in this amount of time you're going to need this many staff, you're going to need this sort of square footage of office space. This percent of your gross profit should be spent on marketing your own agency. This percent of gross profit should be spent on staff, and it's a really good way to be able to know if you're overspending or underspending. But all of that has come as a result of having a very sales first approach to building the business. Like, we know now, the way that we've managed to build it, that the deliverable side, the people that are ranking the websites, you and the rest of the team, the content writers, the technical SEOs, the digital PR guys, they're all really very well equipped to actually deliver the service. But I think the mistake we were making early on is I was too involved in product delivery as well, because I for all those years, for a decade, was an SEO. I was in the creative space of SEO and digital PR, so it was very difficult, I think, for me to let go. And probably I was fucking doing your head in, actually, in the early days of, like, even though my job was sales, still overbearing. How was the campaigns going? What are you doing? What about this? What about that? Because I love to, I just like to come up with ideas and stuff. So, but I think, if you are in a position where you're able to reposition either yourself or hire a business development manager, that has been one of the biggest impacts to our business that we've seen so far, I would say, in terms of our rate of growth and bringing new money in.
Yeah, like one thing that we had always was a consistent supply of inbound leads, and it was because obviously myself and Trevor were involved on the deliverables side, and we had a bit of a flurry with someone who's able to handle the inbound, but someone who they dedicated to it and they focused on it and they create a pipeline. Like, we'd have leads come in and we'd be like, fantastic, this is a really good opportunity, they're a good client, we reckon we could smash this for them. We do all the audits and present to them and stuff, and they wouldn't get back for a couple of days, as most businesses wouldn't, and then the next lead would come in and it would be like almost a cycle of we just let leads go to the wayside because we weren't chasing up, because we were just focusing on within our hour a day that's actually dedicated to the sales. We were focusing on the next one that had just come in, and we sort of let a lot of things go to the wayside. And it wasn't,
if we weren't closing them in 2 or 3 weeks, they'd get forgotten about and we'd move on to someone new. But it's like, if you actually look at the average sales cycle for people in our industry, sometimes it's months. Sometimes like new clients are actually waiting 2-3 months to see out the contract with the previous agency, and they're starting to feel it out, but we just didn't have the perspective or the patience, to be honest with you, with that. I'm attention ADD'd out my fucking head over here. So I think we needed, and Rob, who's been an absolute blessing for us, someone he's had that experience. I mean, he was at Groupon for 7 years selling the advertising space for Groupon. And that sort of thing.
We'll send you customers for a cut of the
that's right, yeah. And so obviously he understands selling campaigns to people, and he had a very sort of strong track record of being a top performer when it comes to sales. And the good thing is with sales staff and business development people is a lot of the time they earn that their earnings is performance based. So whilst his base salary is still very competitive, it's his on track earnings that are very appealing to him, and really then that really comes down to whether or not they're actually closing deals. Assuming you're able to put an attractive incentive package together for them, it really comes down to whether or not they're getting you any new clients. Either they do and you make money and they make money, or they don't and you don't make money and they don't, and then they'll probably go somewhere else where the service that you're selling or the product that you're providing, it sits more comfortably within what they're actually able to sell. So I don't know if there's a concise way of rounding that lesson up, but it's just sales above all else, and get someone that's really good at sales as well.
And it was at the position we were in, especially it was October, and the business was, I don't want to call it a knife edge because we were all right, but it was a risk for us to take this leap of faith. And let's round that off into another lesson is, fortune favors the brave. If you're gonna make a calculated risk, and even don't think about the downsides too much, if you just focus on the positives and you work for the positives to become actualized, then I think just go for it.
It was a bold move. Like, we've seen a lot of other agencies starting to put the fucking feet up and rest on, like, clients they were ranking. Like in our industry, a lot of agencies would call that rank and bank. So they've just got all the websites that they've ranked. They're on basic retention retainers. A lot of staff from other agencies were coming to us saying we've been put on furlough. We're not really having any communication. A lot of people were coming to us because they've seen that we stayed active. And when all the other agencies seemed to start going dormant, we pulled the fucking trigger and we said, actually, well, why don't we get busy while everybody else is sleeping? So that's not all the SEO agencies mind. There's a lot of other SEO agencies out there that are still really active, and respect to them as well, because it's big swaths of clients did go quiet and did pause. So respect to anyone that's like weathered the storm and not just sort of buried their head. Like we decided to make that move, didn't we?
Yeah.
And from that time, we've been through 2 office changes. We've gone from during COVID, we've moved office twice into a bigger space and then into an even bigger space, which we're in now. So we really have pulled the trigger during all this. And one last point on sales while we're on it before we moved on is fuck outbound. Like outbound sales in our industry is so slimy and gross.
Yeah.
Like we've tried it. We don't like cold calling. We don't like anything like that. We experimented with some cold email campaigns, targeted email campaigns, different subject lines and all this sort of thing. We even paid for like cold email courses and all this sort of thing, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work, mate. It doesn't matter what the people that are selling the courses say. Outbound in digital marketing does not work, and it's not because people aren't interested. It's because there's such a high volume of other people doing their old cold email campaigns. Like I get battered on LinkedIn now. Through LinkedIn's the new thing, by the way. LinkedIn Sales Messenger or LinkedIn Sales Manager. I will get in a week 30, 40 new connections, and I don't accept them as they come through. I like to play this game where I'll save up 50 connection requests or thereabouts, right?
What a cool guy.
What a cool... Whoa! Check out the cool guy!
Why aren't you wearing your sunglasses indoors, mate?
Well, I'm wearing my sunglasses underpants. So what I do is I'll save up maybe 40, 50 connection requests, but then I'll accept them all in one go. So I'll just go accept. And then I'll watch my inbox go dink, 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 because they've programmed it to automatically drop you a message as soon as you click accept. Hi Daniel, thanks for connecting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So, by the way, can I sell you something?
Yeah, by the way, can I interest you in our new...
lead generation course on LinkedIn?
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, this totally works.
Yeah. And you know what, I'll tell you what else as well. I was going to do this as a separate episode, but I'll mention this now. You know, do you get battered on YouTube by... I know you've got ad block on, actually.
uBlock Origin. It's Bay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen an ad in the last 7 years.
Right, well, I don't do that. I get battered on YouTube with ads for... You're a digital marketing entrepreneur. Do you know that you can like use my sales automation platform or things for Amazon sellers? You know, selling things like this on Amazon is dead. The best way to sell Amazon is to sell non-physical products, ebooks and all this shit. And I get absolutely rinsed by it.
Yeah.
And I get abused by it, mate. So it goes back to that thing, innit, of like the people that got rich in the gold rush are the people that were selling the shovels.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be that same sort of thing where Amazon is huge right now. Things like SEO and PPC are still big, but...
You know what I'm getting battered with?
What?
There's a guy, I actually bought his course on Facebook advertising a couple of years ago, so I'm on his email list, and he's bettering me with how to become a consultant. So now even consultants are being saturated.
Yeah,
so.
but that's the thing. They always go, well, you know, this is how I made my first million, is through, mastering Amazon Marketplace or mastering how to sell ebooks. And I was like, mate, if you've made millions through selling on Amazon, why the fuck are you selling me a course for $700? Why are you wasting your time on me? Like, shouldn't you have your feet up on a beach somewhere? Or, do you know what I mean? I just find it a little bit...
yacht in Monaco. By the way, we've got a client who does yachts in Monaco.
Don't name them, mate. The SEO agencies are cutthroat. They'll be straight after.
No, I was just going to say, if you need a yacht in Monaco, we can hook you up.
Oh, yeah, we'll sort you out with a yacht in Saint-Tropez.
Saint-Tropez.
Okay. So there we go, mate. Right, I'm surprising you with the last bit of the podcast. You were looking at your phone when I started to record. So surprise, we need to round it off. I think that we've said everything that we've got to share. I think there's probably lots more that we can share and teach people in future episodes. But for now, there's probably a few good things there that we've taught people. And fuck outbound. It's cringy and it makes you look like a call centre. Stop doing it. Stop cold emailing me. Stop cold calling me. Just have a good portfolio and have a good presence online. You're supposed to be a digital marketing agency, so digitally marketing yourself. Digitally market yourself. You can't do it for yourself and you can't do it for clients. Don't use the cobbler's shoes analogy. I'm too busy fixing everybody else's shoes, mate, to polish my own. I'm too busy making everybody else's websites look good and everybody else's websites appear in the search engines to promote myself. That's bullshit, man. market yourself. You're a marketer. If you want marketing clients, be good at marketing yourself. And I'd say that's probably a nice, fairly hostile note to end it on. But I mean, we're trying to keep it energetic, aren't we?
Woo!
I can't believe you've done that. You've shown me up there. But I hope that this has been somewhat educational. Again, I promised you a guest in the first episode.
Stuck with me.
I ventured out as far as just outside my office to find one. But obviously, Kyle, being my business partner, is got a lot of picked up a lot of lessons along the way, the same as I have, and he's got his own perspective on everything. So I think this is a fairly ideal first guest to have on the podcast. I've got someone specific in mind for the second episode. I'm not going to the third episode, the second guest for the third episode. Yeah.
This never happened.
So I hope you will come back and join us again in episode 3 of the Ape Shit podcast. But until then, say what's like a good monkey pun? Until then, go bananas.
Go bananas, I like that.
And don't peel yourself. All right?
See you later.
See you later.